Moshiri in Doha, the main stories on Al Jazeera. The Sri Lankan government says it's allowing 2 UN representatives to go into the country's northern combat zone. This follows a Tamil Tigers unilateral ceasefire. David Chater has more from Sri Lanka.
An attack at the very heart of this rebel government. Gunfire echoes through the city. Some say this was an attempted coup d'etat. Why has this happened? There are both Christian and Muslim victims of this conflict.
Muslims and Christians used to live in this country peacefully, but the hatred and violence which has taken over here will be difficult for people to forget.
Witnesses say on the night of October 26th, a local man brought Selika soldiers to the hut. He told them anti-government rebels were hiding inside.
There is clear evidence of what happened here. We have found spent casings and bullets belonging to a Kalashnikov. There is dried blood all over the ground. There's a dead puppy, as you can see, and even a bullet embedded in the wall surrounded by blood. The stench of death here is just overwhelming. There were 30 people crammed inside this tiny shack. It is incredible that anyone managed to survive when the shooting started.
In a forest close to Congo's border with Rwanda, we meet members of the country's newest rebel army, known as M23.
Well, M23 brought us up to one of their hilltop positions. From here you have a vantage point of what they say is their main base, about 5 kilometres away in the distance, that mountain over there called Buzi. Now they say they have positions all over this region and they won't be giving in until all their conditions are met.
Soldiers spot a tiny speck high in the sky. It appears to be a Sudanese fighter. As it circles, we take cover.
Well, this is the only protection these soldiers say they have from the Antonov warplanes, which keep circling over the skies and dropping bombs. Some would say that you should just have conceded now, that you should accept the decision of the IEBC, and you should just let Uhuru Kenyatta get on with the job of being president.
See, that will defeat the purpose of having an election.
How can you continue to call yourself head of state of a country that you have absolutely no control over?
It's too much to say I have no control. I control my men. The men I can't control are not my men.
There have been several important and also very damning reports which accuse your government of not only wasting a lot of money but also of corruption. As the current president of Somalia and as the potential future president of the country, how are you going to ensure that your government is no longer going to be corrupt?
And joining me now to discuss what is happening here is the Foreign Minister of Ethiopia, Dr. Tedros Adhanom. Thank you so much for joining us. First question really, 50 years of African unity, but some critics would say that the African Union is just a talk shop. Nothing ever gets solved here. What would you say to that?
Looking to the future, I mean, looking at various Kennedys who were speaking at the funeral, sure. Can you see anyone out of them who could be a potential successor? Yes, Stephen, we are trying to monitor everything that is coming out of Iran, and it has been a lot slower in terms of viewer footage which is being sent over to us, partly because internet connection there is so slow right now, but we are getting some clips in. Let's just take a look at one of them. A nuclear deal with Iran would partly focus on the number of centrifuges it can have. These are Iran's main nuclear facilities here at Natanz and underground at Fordo near the city of Qom. This is nothing like the kind of withdrawal Georgia and the West are looking for. These are only 10 tanks that say they're on the move, heading back to bloody Kafkas. This is the man supposedly looking after the humanitarian situation. Who is in charge here now in Gori? Have the Russians left? No. The rescue team has gone, no body was found here, and you can just see the kind of damage they left behind. Clearly, decomposing corpses need to be removed, but the problem is crucial evidence is being tampered with before investigators have even arrived.
Those investigators will want to search the debris for pieces of a missile. Separatists deny they brought down the Malaysian airliner, but there is growing international evidence it was hit by a surface-to-air missile fired from this territory.
As Ukrainian forces close in on Donetsk, the fighting is getting closer to this home. People here describe hearing the sounds of shelling and the walls and windows shaking. These are some of the most vulnerable victims of this conflict because they cannot be moved to safety. Many here were children during the Second World War. They sing songs from the Soviet era about soldiers saying goodbye to their city before going off to fight. It helps them to forget these troubled times as war surrounds them once again. This is the new front line in the fight against Al-Shabaab.
As you can see, the African Union forces are shooting back now. They have the advantage here. This is open terrain, and they also have the firepower.
6 months later, and Turkey has opened an embassy and built new camps like this one on Mogadishu's coastline. The UN donates far more in terms of money, but it's the Turks who've made the biggest impression.
The Turks are sheltering and feeding more than 12,000 people in this camp. They say their focus is humanitarian, but there's no doubt that Turkey sees itself as a growing international power and has a political interest in establishing itself in this part of Africa. The smoke and the heat from the fire is just incredible. We are very high up here. That is part of the problem for the Kenyan Wildlife Services. The fire is spreading up the mountain, which is difficult to deal with. Part of the reason why fewer immigrants are making it across to Lampedusa is this Coast Guard presence in the Mediterranean. But it's also the bad weather conditions with high winds and rough seas making it a difficult and often dangerous journey. You can find the latest on all those stories and more at aljazeera.net/English.